Let's start
You're
it
on
off.
time, correct?
We are on time and ready to roll.
Thank you.
Lauren, take us through. Let's get going.
I'd like to note that Marge Rogatz is attending via video conference from the office of Expedia at 325 Duffy Avenue in Hicksville, New York, and to request a motion and a second to call to order the November 6, 2014 meeting of the Sunny Mae Mortgage Insurance Committee. The motion and second recorded will be used for all action items before the committee unless specific items call for a different vote or unless any committee member wishes to record his or her vote differently. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
The minutes of the meeting of the Mortgage Insurance Committee held on October 9, 2014 shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from the directors.
Now move to the program action items. We have plenty today. Our first item, item number 2, is a resolution recommending the approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a $39.9 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Marcus Garvey Apartments on Chester Avenue and 31 other scattered site buildings throughout Brooklyn.
Yes, this project comprises mod rehab with tenants in place of 625 low-income Mitchell-Lama units.
Thank you.
If the project receives higher new HUD Section 8 rents through the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, or RAD, the loan amount will be $39.9 million, of which $16.9 million is supported by a $2 million per annum IRP, which will run through January 26. If the project does not receive higher RAD rents, the loan amount will be $28.9 million. The development entity is controlled by L&M, a prolific and highly regarded developer of affordable housing and a repeat HFA and Sunny Mae borrower. The insured loan amount, the higher insured loan amount, is $63,840, which equals only 21% of the total development cost of $297,000 per unit. However, there is very substantial assumed debt which HFA purchased from ESD. There is $72 million in assumed subordinate debt, which works out to $115,000 per unit. And if you net the $115,000 in assumed debt from the $297,000, the loan amount, the total cost per unit is $182,000 per unit. The project would break even with a 16% vacancy and collection loss, or a pro forma 15% operating increase in operating expenses. And I would just draw the board's attention to the fact that the MIF currently insures or has commitments to insure about $63 million in loans to entities controlled by L&M. And with the addition of this $39.9 million loan, we will have total exposure to entities controlled by L&M of over $104 million.
What's the percentage on that?
Our total risk in force is about $2.5 billion. So it's about 4% of our total risk in force. So I think it's okay, but I think it bears watching.
What is our kind of guideline limit?
I would think that we would not want to have risk in force of more than about 5% to any one
So we're getting
borrower.
close, but not there.
We're getting close.
Are they now number one, or is CPC still?
I think as a borrower, they and the New York Omni are one.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Apologize. We have multiple loans to one developer.
Yes.
We cross collateralize, we can't.
We can't.
We're not allowed to.
We can't because they collateralize different bond issues.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
When is this? When is the RAD determined? What's the timing?
When they complete the renovation, they'll apply for RAD.
How long is that process take?
Probably a year and a half.
So the timing on that this just
It's uncertain at this juncture if they'll get it. And we're, in the resolution, we're asking the board to approve the larger loan amount.
Okay. Got it.
I repeated at the board meeting, but this is drawing a lot of excitement in that part of Brooklyn. As a matter of fact, the city has an interesting partnership with us. They are addressing all the attention across the street from this complex. So it's really going to be a contiguous sort of project. While we're working on the Marcus Garvey houses itself, the city is working with everything that's surrounding it, kind of centralizing it to be a boost for the whole Brownsville community.
Good.
Nice,
Good.
nice.
Good. Okay, any questions or comments? Marge, nobody hearing?
Then the resolution before the committee is recommending approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for Marcus Garvey Apartments, 327 to 357 Chester Avenue, including 31 other scattered site buildings located in Brooklyn, Kings County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motion is
Aye.
carried.
Our next item is a resolution recommending approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a 11.1 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Canaan House, 8 West 118th Street in Manhattan. Mike?
This comprises mod rehab with tenants in place, also of an all low-income MIC11 project. And of the 146 units, there will be a HAP contract for 128 of the units. And this project also has substantial assumed existing debt. There's 12.9 million in assumed old ESD debt purchased by HFA. The project has been owned and operated by a not-for-profit, Hope Community, Inc., a not-for-profit that was established in 1968 and has continually owned and operated the project since it was built in 1976. The insured loan amount is $76,000 per unit, which equals only 30% of the project's total development cost of $257,000 per unit. But as with the former project, if you net out the assumed debt of $82,000 a unit, the total cost per unit is $175,000 per unit. And the project would break even with a 10% pro forma increase in vacancy and collection loss, or with a 6% increase in pro forma operating expenses.
I have no questions. Tony, good. Marge? Darrell?
Yep.
Okay.
Then the resolution before the committee is recommending approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for Canaan House, 8 West 118th Street, Manhattan, New York County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion is carried.
Item number 4 is a resolution recommending approval of 100% mortgage insurance on an $8 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Maria Isabel Apartments on 787 East 149th Street in the Bronx. Mike?
This project comprises mod rehab with tenants in place of a 99-unit, all low-income senior project, and there is a HAP contract in place for all of the units. The project has been continually owned and operated since it was built in 1988 by an entity controlled by Promisa. And Promisa is an experienced operator of affordable housing and healthcare in the Bronx. The loan amount is $81,000 per unit, which equals only 33% of the project's total development cost of $245,000 per unit. And the project would break even with a 14% increase in vacancy and collection loss, or a 17% increase in pro forma operating expenses.
Any comments, questions? Looks like another good project. I don't have any issues.
Okay. The resolution before the committee is recommending approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for Maria Isabel Apartments, 787 East 149th Street, Bronx County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And the motion is carried.
Item 5 is a resolution recommending the approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a $16.95 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Concern Middle Island Apartments, Rocky Point Road in Middle Island in Suffolk. Mike?
This project comprises construction of 123 all-low-income units. Of the 123 units, 50 will be supportive housing units for chronically homeless single adults with psychiatric disabilities. And the other 72 units will be low-income housing tax credit units. The New York State Office of Mental Health will contract with Concern for Independent Living to provide supportive services for the 50 supportive housing tenants. And OMH will also contract to pay $1 million a year for each of the next 30 years in debt service. I would direct the board's attention to risk analysis section on page 4 of the project summary. The $16.95 million loan exceeds the $13.3 million appraised value of the project. But we don't think that it's imprudent to insure this loan amount because OMH is paying $1 million per annum of the debt service. And Concern is an experienced owner, operator of supportive housing, principally on Long Island, and they are a repeat HFA and Sunny Mae borrower. The project would break even with a 7% increase in pro forma operating expenses or a 5% increase in vacancy or collection rates.
How often have we looked at a loan that exceeds the appraised value? Is this?
Rarely.
Yes.
Rarely. I mean, I think this is an unusual situation, but I think that the loan is sized to include $1 million per annum of debt service from OMH. The $1 million per annum in debt service from OMH almost equals the total rental income from the project, which is $1.3 million. So OMH is paying almost virtually all of the debt service on the project. In Exhibit B, the total debt service is $1.2 million, and OMH is paying $1 million in debt service. So I think it's not imprudent to insure a loan of this size.
This is really, if I could comment on it, this is really a signal of OMH's confidence in Ralph Fasano's leadership of Concern. And I've said this before, I have visited these programs. It's a model for everybody in terms of changing the lives of chronically homeless people, be they veterans or other people, and mixing the people in a project, and that they are also successful with.
Here's a question.
Sure. Anytime.
Does OMH have a contract? Suppose they say we're not paying anymore. What
Well,
happens?
they have a contract. There's a 30-year contract between OMH.
Who funds OMH? I'm sorry, I don't know.
The contract is subject to annual appropriation. However,
Well, they're not the appropriation.
OMH and OPWDD have a 50-year track record of never not funding a contract.
Okay.
And in this case, OMH will pay the debt service directly to the bond trustee.
Good question, John.
Thank you.
Anything? Marge? Okay, let's go.
And the resolution before the committee is recommending approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for Concern Middle Island Apartments, Rocky Point Road, Middle Island, Suffolk County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion is carried.
Item number 6, a resolution recommending the approval of 100% insurance on a $12.2 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for John Wesley Village, one apartments.
This item has been withdrawn, so you might want to. Right, Wesley?
I know.
6.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't know
Yes.
that. When was that?
Sorry, it's the same item, it's also from the HFA agenda.
It's just not ready.
Deferred.
Our next resolution recommends the approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a 10.5 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Ruland Road, Highland Green Apartments in Huntington and Suffolk County. Mike, this is item number 7.
This project comprises development of 118 low-income units. Of the 118 units, 93 will be reserved to tenants with incomes up to 60% of the Nassau-Suffolk AMI. The remaining 24 will be reserved for tenants with incomes up to 80% of the AMI. The project is being developed by an entity controlled by DNF Development and by the Long Island Housing Partnership. And this will be the third loan that the MIF will insure to entities controlled by DNF. The project is being organized as a low-income, as a limited equity co-op, with the cooperative will master lease the project from the borrower. The tenant's maintenance payments, which will be equal to low-income housing tax credit rents, both state and federal low-income housing tax credit rents, will fund the maintenance payments, and the maintenance payments in turn will fund the master lease payments between the cooperative and the borrower. The project would break even with an 11% increase in pro forma operating expenses or a 10% pro forma vacancy rate. The loan amount is $89,000 per unit, which equals 31% of the project's total development cost of $288,000 per unit.
Questions, comments? Marge, are you familiar with these folks on the island?
Very familiar with them. Peter Flory really brought this together with the Long Island Housing Partnership. This is a property, I spoke with Mike yesterday about it. This is a property that has been the object of NIMBYism for many years. And the developers and the partnership have worked very hard to bring together a whole bunch of both streams of money and people to make this happen. And it's Peter Flory has been really known as a good developer, but he had to go out on a limb to face the community, and he did it. So he's got the business savvy and the development savvy, and he's learned the community process.
Okay, good to hear. All right, any other thoughts, comments, Lauren?
Okay, the resolution before the committee is recommending approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for Ruland Road, Highland Green Apartments, Town of Huntington, Suffolk County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried.
Item number 8 is a resolution recommending approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a 11.35 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for the Modern at 130 Mount Vernon Avenue in Mount Vernon in Westchester. Mike?
This project comprises development of 81 low-income units. And of the 81 low-income units, 22 units will be reserved for New York State OMH clients with special needs. The remaining 58 units will be reserved for low-income tenants. This is very similar to the Concern project earlier approved by the committee. In this case, the development entity, McQuestion Development, is a repeat HFA and Sunny Mae borrower, a well-regarded developer of affordable housing. And the supportive housing services will be provided by Community Housing Innovations, Inc., which is an experienced provider of supportive housing services in Westchester and on Long Island. And in this case, OMH has contracted, as with Concern. There's a 30-year contract between OMH and the borrower and OMH will pay $308,000 per annum in debt service for the 30-year life of the mortgage.
This is another case where you've got people who've been in it for a long time and who have become expert and who have become leaders in the field.
Right, I know them too.
The project would break even with a 14% increase in pro forma operating expenses or a 12% pro forma vacancy rate.
Mike, thoughts, comments? All right.
The resolution before the committee is recommending approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for the modern 130 Mount Vernon Avenue, Mount Vernon, Westchester County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried.
Item number 9 is a resolution recommending approval of 100% mortgage insurance on an $11.585 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Shalom Senior Apartments on Crumpkill Road in Albany. Mike?
This project comprises the substantial rehab with tenants in place of 209 low-income units for seniors. And during the rehab, some of the tenants may be moved into vacant units while the rehab is going on. Of the 209 units, there will be low-income housing tax credits for 176 of the units. There's a HAP contract in place for 122 units, and there will be project-based vouchers for 49 units. The project has been continually owned and operated by the same not-for-profit, Ohav Shalom, since it was built in 1974. The new borrowing entity will include Omni Housing Development, which is the upstate Omni as distinct from the New York City Omni. The loan amount is $55,000 per unit, which equals only 37% of the project's total development cost of $147,000 per unit. And the project would break even with a 13% increase in pro forma operating expenses or a 12% vacancy rate.
Thoughts, comments? Fine.
The resolution before the committee is recommending approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for Ohav Shalom Senior Apartments, 115 Crumpkill Road, Albany, Albany County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried.
Item number 10, our next item is a resolution recommending approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a $7.69 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for historic pastures, 105 Green Street, and 90 other scattered site buildings in Albany also.
This comprises the rehabilitation of 246 units. Of the 246 units, 230 are reserved to tenants with incomes up to 60% of the AMI, and there's a project-based HAP contract for 152 of those units. The remaining 14 units will be reserved for households with incomes up to 90% of the AMI. There were both federal and state low-income housing tax credits helping to finance this project. These buildings were built in the late 1880s and were subsequently renovated in the early 1980s. I would direct the committee to Exhibit E. These are really neat-looking buildings. Say the insured loan amount is only $31,000 per unit, which equals 20% of the project's total development cost of $159,000 per unit. And the project would break even with a 9% vacancy and collection loss or a 7% increase in operating expenses. And the developer, Liberty Affordable Housing, is a very well-regarded, prolific developer of affordable housing upstate, and they are a repeat HFA and Sunny Mae borrower. Our total, inclusive of this loan, our total exposure to entities controlled by Liberty will be $61 million.
It's the widest scattered site insurance we've considered. I mean, it's
Yes.
kind of a wide swath.
Yeah.
That's an important model for us, not just in rural areas, but in suburban areas, it's an important model.
So on the map, I'm having a little trouble finding, is it north of the Empire State Plaza? Is that this little?
I think, I will see the downtown.
Yeah, there's a dotted line, and I think
It's
that
right- it's right-
outlines
Oh, I
the
got it,
area.
I got it, I got it, I got it,
Most
I got
of
it.
it concentrated
Got
right
it, got
on
it,
there.
got it.
You know, downtown with the McDonald's there.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
there-
yeah,
It's the historic.
yeah.
that's great. Good, all right.
Actually, it's a neighborhood that abuts Hampton. So it's
The
really
Hampton Inn?
our Hampton
Oh,
office.
Hampton
Hampton
office.
Plaza.
Good.
The resolution before the committee is recommending approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for historic pastures, 105 Green Street and 90 other scattered site buildings, Albany, Albany County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion is carried.
Item number 11, resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance on a 4.39 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Harris Park Apartments, Flufferton Street, Rochester, Monroe County. Mike?
This project comprises mod rehab with tenants in place of 114 low-income units. And of the 114 units, 63 units will be covered by an existing HAP contract, and the remaining 51 units will be covered under a HUD-enhanced voucher use agreement. The development entity is controlled by Conifer, which is another well-regarded and prolific developer of affordable housing upstate. And inclusive of this project, our total exposure to Conifer will be $81 million. The insured
Just like
loan
to
amount is
comment.
only...
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll wait.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mike.
The insured loan amount is $38,000 per unit, which equals only 33% of the project's total development cost of $116,000 per unit. The project would break even with a 10% vacancy and collection loss or a 7% increase in operating expenses.
Marge?
I was just gonna say, some of the pictures of the project we just looked at before are exciting buildings, and these are really awful looking, but I think that it's important that we're doing it. It would be nice if we could look at it and say, what nice homes you've made for people. I mean, the interiors may be wonderful, but the exteriors are not very appealing.
Any thoughts or other comments?
The resolution before the committee is for approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for Harris Park Apartments, 72-136 Flufferton Street, Rochester, Monroe County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And the motion is carried.
All right, our last resolution is approving 100% mortgage insurance on a 4.21 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for WIH Preservation, 1 Arrowhead Bend Drive, Williamson in Wayne County.
This comprises mod rehab with tenants in place of 113 all low-income senior project. It is a scatter site project with 8 separate buildings. There is a HAP contract in place for all 112 units, and the development entity is controlled by CB Emmanuel, which is a New York City-based developer of affordable housing. This will be the 4th loan that the MIF will insure for entities controlled by CB Emmanuel. The insured loan amount is only $37,000 per unit, which equals 42% of the project's total development cost of $89,000 per unit. This is a very efficient project. And the project would break even with a 9% increase in pro forma operating expenses or a 10% vacancy rate.
Okay, thoughts, comments? Marge?
And the resolution before the committee is for approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for WIH preservation, 1 Arrow Bend Road, Williamson, Wayne County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion is carried.
Information items, it looks like the surtax are still coming in strong, so.
It is.
But no further business, hearing nothing else, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Moved. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the meeting is adjourned.